Hi. If you're watching this, then you're interested in playing Geralt in Season 2. Maybe you're only interested in the changes that he got. Maybe you just want to play him. Maybe you're just new. The good news, if you're new, is that Geralt is probably the simplest character in the entire game. Like, he has a very short move list. He's not very execution heavy at all. And he's very easy to understand. Like, there aren't a lot of stances that you need to grasp in order to, know what to do with him. It's a very short move list. He's very good on defense for a number of reasons. One of the main ones definitely is this move, which a lot of new players struggle with when they're playing against Geralt. And it's easy to overuse this move, but regardless, it's a big reason why he's good on defense. Another reason is he has this insane range, right? So let's say you get a life lead. Let's say I hit with that. Let's say I don't even need to finish the combo. I hit with that. I can just sit back here and use my insane range to make it very difficult for the opponent to approach me. The reason that works so well also is because while his frames are on hit not that great, like he mostly only gets +2, sometimes +4, mostly only +2, which is not a good deal in this game. He's also rarely punishable. So while the frames on hit aren't great, on block they're pretty good, because like this is an insane move that's safe. This is a mid combo starter that is safe on block and even pushes people back to your optimal range. Same for this move, which is a bit slow, but that too is a mid horizontal like this one. That's safe on block and pushes people back to your optimal range. So that's what he's good at. He's simple and easy to understand. He's good on defense, not so great on offense. And he's a spacing / with punishment character that's easy to grasp. So unlike some other easy characters, like, he's not going to teach you a lot of bad habits. So that's why it's a good idea, I think, to learn Geralt. If he's at all interesting to you, I think he's a good character to learn. Now on to his his most important moves. Like, his generic tools are pretty good, like 2A, AA, BB. His 3B has some insane range and is pretty much safe if you space it well. I'm not gonna dwell too hard on those because they're generic tools that every character has. Like, they're not out of the ordinary. It's a standard I12 AA, I14 BB, etc., etc. I will, give you some pointers on some other moves he's got. Now, there are two normals he has, two attacks that really work well together. They are 3A, which is a safe on block, horizontal mid. So unless they backstep it and make it whiff, they really cannot do anything about this. They have to block it, and then, of course they can do stuff if they want to risk it. I'll get to this move later. They can try to do stuff, but Geralt is safe, so they don't get a guaranteed punish for blocking this. They cannot sidestep it, cannot duck it, jump it. If they're in range, this move hits, and it's reasonably fast too, considering what it does. Now, this move you have to block standing. He also has 1A, which is this move, which you have to block ducking. It's considerably slower, and while this is technically punishable on block, it's risky to do so. Hold on, I'll just record him doing it. Yeah, that's just a... Don't worry about that, we'll get to that. But like, let's say I try to punish this, right? The second hit will counter hit me. So there's a mind game in using 1A as to whether or not the enemy will finish the string. So there's not a guaranteed punish here. It's risky on the enemy's part to try to punish it, but it is technically punishable. So you will often see Geralts like approaching neutral, at this range, right? And if they want to get in, they'll try to get in like this, or maybe with this. And then because the enemy hesitates to punish the 1A, they just won't. And so you've gotten in for free, basically, if you would want to get in, because that's not always the game plan. But these two moves are very good at getting you in, like occupying that I want to get out of neutral and in their face territory. That's what these two are very good at. Another great move he has is this one. Now this one is technically very unsafe. It's -16, so a lot of characters, most of the cast really can punish this with the super on block. But it really doesn't last too long.
This isn't for show.
So when he hits me with this,
This isn't for show.
I have to be super ready because the duration, the block stun duration is so tiny that the enemy basically has to be looking for this move, blocking it, and immediately respond with a punish. Now, why is this move so good? Because so far it's been pretty underwhelming. If this catches someone sidestepping, it'll go into this counter hit. The move changes. The behavior changes when it counter hits. And if you hit a just frame after that, you get up to 50 damage. Now there is a tipper mechanic here, so if you do that up close, see it's only 43. So you get more damage for hitting it at the tip. You're plus 10 if you hit that just frame, meaning, if I don't mess it up, you can get 15 extra damage in exchange for half a bar by using Art, which is an I-10. That's 8A plus B. You can go into that. But yeah, basically 4A is very good at like standing here. Let's imagine you have a life lead, the enemy has to come to you, and this is just one of the moves you throw out that if it catches them in their step, suddenly they lost 50 health. And the only mistake they made was trying to come close to you. Also, this move is not a high. It's not a high, so they can't like move and duck, they have to block it standing. Now, the step kill is important. You know, moves like, I haven't talked about 6A, but like 4A, 3A, 6A, these are all important because probably the best attack he's got is 6B. That's what it does on block. I'm slightly negative, but I did a bunch of chip damage. Notice his life bar. He's blocking, but I still took off like 12 health here. And if it hits, because he's blocking it, but if it hits, that's like 60 damage. 64, 65, something like that. So people want to step against Geralt a lot, because Geralt wants to abuse his safe mid combo starter. So you see how these components all work very well together, right? You have to mix it up a bit between using this move, 6BB, and then using stuff like this, stuff like that, stuff like this, stuff like that. Even this, maybe. A bit on the risky side, that one, but still, because of the speed. So this move is like the bread and butter of Geralt gameplay. Because I hope you've noticed the range. I could be standing, this may be a bit too far, not even, right? So it is an insane whiff punisher with great range. It's safe on block. It's not safe on block if you don't hold it, by the way. So if I were to do it like this, yeah, I think this is a training mode bug, but when you don't hold the input, Geralt is -12 on block. So let's see here. See there? He was not able to block. So pretty much you always want to hold the move, right? I do not recommend using this move without spending meter on it. And you spend meter on it by holding the second B. So that's 6B, B hold. That's this move. The best move in his arsenal by far. 6A, I've mentioned it just briefly a second ago. Now, this attack has a bunch of use. And I think it's criminally underused by a lot of players. So, what most players do when it comes to 6A is they will either use 6AB, which is a natural combo, and it's your I-16 Punisher, so obviously you want to use it. It's a natural combo, so you can throw it out, and if it hits, well, so will the second one, right? So there's not really much thought behind that. Or they use it as a stagger. 6A, right? And then, because people are expecting the B, they will either be GIing, stepping, or just blocking, whatever. And then you can go into something like a throw, right? Or maybe a 6B. You know, you get the idea. But the other third part of the string is 6AA. Now you may have recognized this attack. It's the same as this one, but as a part of the string. Now this is not a natural combo. In fact, it's not even a counter hit combo. But what this will do is every single option that the enemy has to deal with 6AB, be it a GI, be it a sidestep, well, except a soul charge activation, I guess. But that's whatever. That's still a win in your book. We'll get to that. Everything they could do, like a step guard, this essentially beats, because it's a horizontal mid that does like, I think 9% or 8% guard damage, and it pushes back to the range where Geralt wants to be. So using 6A, 6AB, 6AA, it will make it extremely hard for players to deal with you. And even if your stuff gets blocked, you can still go into this. And that's... Let's talk about that for a second. I still have some other attacks to go over, but let's talk about this for a second. So, what is this move? This is one of his signs. He has a couple. Most are... For the most part, the most of them are only or mostly useful when you do them as part of his strings. Irden is very useful when you do it on its own. Let's have him attack here. Right, so what this is it starts up in 4 frames, which is slower than a GI, but faster than a reversal edge, and it will parry anything that is not a throw attack. What am I saying? Anything that is not a break attack, and anything that is not an unblockable. So those two will go through. It will parry throws, it will parry lows, mids, highs, whatever. It will parry all those things, and when it does, you get a very, very big combo. Like 70 damage, more if they are in soul charge because of reasons. And it has a good bit of ring out distance on it as well. So that's why that's important. Now, I mentioned that Geralt is safe on a lot of his stuff. I won't go into the details, but basically, he oftentimes will be -8. And considering most characters, their fastest attack is an I-12 move. When you do your I-4 parry, it's the exact sweet spot where you need it to be. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And the parry window is 15 frames. So when at -8 you do Irden, you will parry moves, assuming they do them immediately out of block stun or hit stun. You will parry any move between I-12 and I-26, something like that. So it is super strong. Anyway, that's Irden. I'm sure many of you have already seen this move and what it does. Some other attacks he's got. Let's put him to block again. 1B. Technically, Geralt does not have great lows. This has gotten a little bit better in Season 2 because he's got a low off of Quen now, which is plus on hit, and that was surprising, but we'll take it. But generally, he does not have many lows. Like if he does this, for example, unless it's a counter hit, he's lost his turn. This move technically is plus because it knocks down, right? It's unsafe. It's -14, which is a lot safer than it could have been. They could have easily have made this -16 or -18. Now the downside is it is relatively slow, arguably reactable offline, and it's linear, so easily sidestepped, right? But people are going to be sidestepping you anyway, so it kind of ties in with the rest of his game plan. Honestly, this is something that I don't recommend throwing out in neutral. That's gonna be tough, but like, let's say you get a knockdown, right? Like a situation like that, when they're getting up and they have to guess, that's where this is good, because they will expect you to go for this, because that's the safe option, and it leads to more damage. So you pepper in a couple of these, and eventually you can go for stuff like this. It's strong, not too crazy. Also, when you have hit 4 signs, it eventually becomes a lethal hit. We'll talk about the lethal hits later. And then finally, Geralt has very good throw range. So a couple of characters will have more throw range than he does, but that's actually only if they're using command grabs. So if you just use the generic A plus G input, Geralt has the highest range in the game. So let's say Astaroth does A plus G, he cannot outrange Geralt's throw. He has to use the 2, 3, 6, whatever, you know, he has to use the command inputs for it. So needless to say, his throws are very good. His forward throw is mostly a reset to neutral, so that's one you can go for, you know, when you have a life lead and you want, you know, when you want them to run the gauntlet of going through your normals again and again, and so you can get that those little specks of damage while they're coming to you. That's when the forward throw is good. When you're behind, then you know you hit a throw and you want to get more oaky after it, then you can go for a back throw. You know that this is the range where you can go for 1B or 3B. That works after a back throw. Now they can roll away from you to dodge all of that, but if you do an art, didn't work here because he's not rolling, but if you use an art there, it will beat the back throw. So that's his throw pressure. Also, yeah, you can meter burn his throws. This turns them into a command grab, and command grabs, when broken, are plus on break. They're +8. So these moves are pretty much the ones you want to go for. So I'll, you know, just to summarize. So his generic tools are very good. AA, BB, 3B, 2A. I didn't go in depth on those. 3A and 1A are good. Though I didn't mention it. These are not plus on regular hit, by the way. So they need to be counter hits. And you can recognize that during a match by the blue flash that appears. See that blue flash? Those are counter hits. Then you're plus. Otherwise, you're slightly minus. 4A is great as a step kill in neutral. Risky if the opponent knows the punish, but if they don't, then his neutral just skyrockets. If you notice that they don't know this move is punishable, please abuse it. It is super good. 6B, his best attack. Like, let's move on. 1-1A, bit on the slow side, but considering what it does, very strong. 6A, plenty of applications here. 1B, use sparingly, but when it hits, super strong. His throws are super good, and then this is one of the few ways, arguably the only way you have, of making people hesitate. So these moves are all his top moves and the ones you should be using, in my opinion. Now, okay, let's talk about his lethal hits. And he pretty much has two sets of lethal hits. I'll actually talk about his generic A plus B lethal hit first. So this is one that every character has. When you use a break attack, the generic break attack that is, the A plus B, on someone doing a GI or a reversal edge, you get a lethal hit. And in Geralt's case, you get a lot of damage. Hello? That's weird. Right. So that combo ender tends to be a bit wonky sometimes. If you want to be safe, end it in 1B. Regardless, it does a lot of damage. Less damage nowadays than in Season 1, but still people don't want to get hit by that damage. And when you hit a level 2 GI, this is pretty much all you're getting. And the damage will be even less because it's scaled after a GI. So what I'm trying to get at is when you hit with a GI, because people are so afraid of the break attack compared to the relatively low reward for hitting the level 2 GI. On level 3 you get this, which is, that's a lot bigger. But level 2 GI, you should basically assume that this is free. Like, unless the other guy does not know the matchup, you should not expect a re-GI, honestly. So that's this lethal hit out of the way. Let's have a look at his move list for a second. Just to show you guys what's up. It's X. Yeah, so while soul charged, this is one I get while I'm soul charged, and the opponent has to be soul charged. Super specific, I don't think I'm gonna go into that one here. 1AB. So you have to hit with 1AB on an opponent who has a full soul gauge. what that means is, well, first of all, 1AB is not a natural combo, right? So if 1A hits, that's not a guarantee. 1A has to hit, counter hit, or it's not going to, you know, they can block it. So the opponent is incentivized not to ever hit full meter. So they're incentivized to use their meter pretty much as soon as possible. Now here, this is one example. Powers up when opponent is soul charged, always triggers when opponent is soul charged. So basically, 4B is one, where are the others? Yeah, Quinn Rush B is also one. Command throw, like there are like 4 or 5 lethal hits in here that will only trigger while the opponent is soul charged. So typically what that means in a match is they want to spend their meter ASAP because of lethal hit 1AB, and they don't want to spend it on soul charge because that's almost a win for the Geralt, who suddenly becomes a lot more scary. Because like this will do more damage. Every attack he does that has the blue streak rather than the yellow streak is a silver sword attack, and those all get powered up against enemies who are soul charged. So basically what ends up happening is people just use their meter on supers. And that's not something you really mind, because in general the soul charge are far more powerful than the supers. So even though you may not notice the effect, because there will be matchups or players where you will never hit those lethal hits, they still have an effect, because simply by you picking Geralt you are changing the way they play. That is spending meter faster than maybe they would like to, and they will avoid their soul charge. Now the other set of lethal hits, which is completely new to Season 2, well, not completely new, but it was kinda iffy and wonky in Season 1, and arguably not worth it. So Geralt has 5 different signs. He has Irden, which is the parry, or the soul attack is also Irden. Yes, Igni, which are the flames. Yes, Ard, which is the force push. Quen, which is like an armored rush he does, and he has a couple of attacks coming out of that. And Axie. I'm not even gonna mention this move standalone. It is very advanced. It's a high risk, arguably low reward tool. But luckily you can also hit Axie when you use the super. Right? So let's just assume that when I'm talking about Axie, I'm talking about the super. Until they, you know, maybe change something about it. So there are 5 different signs. I just went over all of them. And after you hit someone with 3 different signs, you get lethal hit 6-6BB, which is so-so. It's definitely the weakest one in my opinion, because, well, number one is because I mostly play online, and this string is actually technically hit confirmable, but for the vast majority of us who only play online, that's not really the case. It's not hit confirmable online. I'll show some example combos later. After 4, you get lethal hit 1B. And after 5, you get lethal hit 3B, which is super strong. So bear with me for a second here while I hit all the signs. Need Irden. Now I need to hit the super. So now I've hit all 5 signs.
Not your lucky day.
Now, what's also key about this is you can only hit these once per match. So let's say you hit 3 signs in round 1, you hit your 6-6BB in round 2, that's it. You are not getting any more 6-6BB lethal hits. Now if you hit your 4th sign after that, you immediately get 1B lethal hit. So it's not like you have to get 3, use the lethal hit, reset back to 0, get another 4. That's not how it works, right? So you need to get to 5 once in the match, and then you get every lethal hit once in the match. So here's an example combo for 6-6BB. Pretty much identical to whatever combo routes there are off of A plus B lethal hit. I kinda messed up at the end there because I was mashing. Off. I just reset training mode. That's Bear with me. Bear. I'll show you the a 3B lethal hit first, which you get after 5 signs, just in case I derp again.
Got you.
Right, so that's about 90 damage for the 3B. And for 1B it looks something like this. I didn't do that right. That should be it probably. Yeah, those are the lethal hits. Now, the 3B is pretty strong, but it's hard to get to. 6-6BB is like it's a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, but that one, to me at least, has been the hardest one to hit. Like I recommend doing it as an Oki option, and that might work because like the startup of this move and the startup of that move are very similar. So while they're technically reactable frame-wise, there's a mix-up here in terms of the animation. So you could try to do it like that, but by far, like when you become really scary is when you've hit 4 signs and you have this lethal hit. Because that lethal hit into CE will most likely grant you the 3B lethal hit, because you need to hit Axie for that, remember? And that is the hardest sign to hit by far. Now, if you do this lethal hit into your CE, you'll get Axie, and for some reason it scales very well, so you're looking at like a 90 damage low here. Just look at this damage.
Stand up. Now take my steel.
Right? We're hitting a low. So my strategy so far in a match has been round 1, I try to get to my 3 basic signs as fast as possible, and these are Igni, Ard, and Quen. When I've hit those 3, I'm like, you know, that's one mental load off my mind, and then I can focus on hitting Irden, which I can do by, you know, hit confirming into the soul attack or by getting a read with the sign with a parry. Now there are a bunch of ways to get there, but like when you hit a close range 6BB, for example, you can get 2 signs in one combo and you're not really giving up any damage. See, that just gave me 2 signs instantly. When you get this launcher, you can get Quen. Basically, my strategy is when the game starts, you know, you go for a bunch of combo routes that give you those 3 signs very quickly. Then you only need to worry about getting to Irden, and then, you know, you hit your 1B, you get a super, and then that's it. You're done, right? You have all the signs locked and ready to go. Other than that, it's just a game of whiff punishment, you know, spacing. That's basic Geralt, right? So you try to get people to step using moves like this, Then you stop their frame kills. What am I saying? You kill their steps. Kills. Up close, he doesn't really have good lows, right? I've mentioned this. So when you're close, you should be using his throws for that, because they kind of serve the same purpose. If they want to beat your throw, they need to duck, right? So it's kind of like a low in that sense. Especially in this season, it's strong because you're a very meter-reliant character, and when they break your throw, you gain meter. So it's become a lot easier this season in terms of meter management. Like in season 1, I was very stingy with my meter, and nowadays it's not that I'm not, I just don't have to be. But that's great. Right, so here's an example of what I mean by getting the signs quickly. That's one. That's Art pretty immediately. I got Quen off a mix-up there. And here I got my 6BB, so I already have 3 signs, right? This was a 15-second round, and I built my 3 signs in that 15-second round. Right, I think that's about it for the guide. I tried to keep this pretty digestible, so there's not like tech traps in here or like combo, and you know, in this situation you do this combo, you do this route when this and that. You know, if you have like super in-depth questions, I suggest you come check out the Discord. We are working on a more in-depth text guide, and when I say we, I mean me and the rest of the Geralt Discord team. No idea when it'll be out. We'll see. But if you have in-depth questions, like we know our stuff, just come ask us and we'll help you out. Okay, so right as I was finishing up the guide, I figured why not have like a tiny section where I just showcase some bits and pieces of tech that might be useful. So here's one. There is a very, very useful clash setup that Geralt has. Now, I mentioned at some point in the video that most of the time you only get +2. Like, this on counter hit is +2. That on regular hit is +2. BB is +2. AA is +2. A lot of the time you are, quote-unquote, only +2. Now, the reason +2 is bad is because unless you really enjoy doing like 2As and stuff, it's pretty risk-free for the enemy to try and, you know, mash out of that. Like, +2 is not something you necessarily have to respect. And you really don't want to be doing like GI or Irden on your own plus frames. That doesn't make any sense. So there's a clash setup for that. Specifically against I-12s though. So I hope I recorded them properly. I was holding block after that clash, right? Right side is a dummy, I'm the left side. I was holding block after that clash, but because I think it's exactly +22 or something that Geralt is, so he gets a guaranteed 3B in this situation. And that works against the entire cast. Hold up, that's when I messed up. Humbling. Right, holding block there. That's something that works against the entire cast when it concerns their I-12 AA or 2A. Now down to another point, this is a big reason why he struggles against I-10 characters, especially the Sorel line, who have a 6B, which even if you could clash with it, it wouldn't give you this kind of frame advantage. But regardless, if you're +2 against like the baseline characters, this is a great setup to use. Okay, so here's something that's new to season 2. Before, when you did your 6-6B plus K juggle, there was no mix-up on the opponent's part. Because you would end in your 4AA just frame, and then you ended in 1AA, and that was guaranteed no matter what. The only thing that could happen is if the opponent didn't know the matchup and they teched, it did more damage and it could potentially wall splat. But if they knew the matchup, nobody would tech there because they had no reason to. Now, they changed something about 1AB, which wasn't listed in the patch notes, by the way. And you can also cancel 1AB now. So now there is some sort of mind game here. And I'll show you. I'm gonna tech here, see what happens. That didn't happen before. Right? Before, the 1AB could not tech trap. They could block the B. So now you get that tech trap, which I hope you saw gives insane Oki. Like, that's some insane Oki. There's even some guaranteed follow-ups there, but whatever. So that's what happens when I tech. Now, when I don't tech, that's actually super risky to do, the 1AB there. But Geralt can confirm that it wasn't teched. It looks like that. I'm not gonna tech here. Just holding block. Geralt can see that, and after he has input 1AB, cancels out, and he's minus there but still safe. He's -4 or something. Right. So you can use those two to sort of enforce them not to tech, basically, because they're like, well, they're not gaining anything by teching, right? Either they tech, you get good Oki, or they don't tech and you're still safe. I have to mention that the 1A is guaranteed there, so they cannot tech out of that. Now, let's say you condition them not to tech at all. You can actually do this. You do a meaty A plus B there, which is, good guard damage, obviously, like 19%. You're +4 on block. And it's, quote-unquote a force block, but obviously they can tech it. So you need to use the 1A stuff to convince them not to tech. And this is great because in the past, when you did your 6s B plus K, B and B, it was mostly a reset to neutral, like you were not keeping up pressure. Now you do have options to maintain pressure. There's a mind game here. I've got another useful thing here. When you hit 6 BB, Normally, if you hit this very close, 1 AA is guaranteed. If I hit this a bit further out, they can take out of there. See? Now, you can actually take a tiny step forward after 6 BB and still hit a guaranteed 1A. However, that increases the window to where 1A can function as a tech trap. Now, normally, let's put him to, you know, a side tech for now. He does not even have the option to tech. Now, when I take a step forward, it's kind of rough. You need to practice this a lot. So, see that? So this does a couple of things. So the range at which you can also get in which you can also get your art sign increases, because normally you would have to be here, which is basically like punishment range. But now you can hit it from like here. I'm gonna put him on back tick just to make sure that I'm not. This should probably work. I'm messing up a bit here. See there, I just barely managed to graze him. I'm doing tiny steps, but you can do a big forward one here. That was a bit too slow. Cancelling too quickly. Cancelling way too quickly. See, like that. So you can squeeze in a bit of distance, and that's also useful because that means you can do the 1AB tech trap stuff. I missed input there. Yeah, he teched backwards twice, but I hope you get the idea. You can create a window here in which 1A tech traps, whereas it usually doesn't. See that? And then you get a tech trap throw even if you wanted to. It's not particularly useful, but it looks cool. Oh yeah, the new 1-1A move also tech traps here. So if you absolutely want to get back to neutral spacing, with the added benefit of potentially tech trapping, you can do that. So see that? And if that's blocked, you still got guard damage, the pushback, and etc, etc. Obviously, if they stay down, this whiffs. Okay, now another thing they added in Season 2 that seemed kind of pointless at first, but we've sort of found a use for it now, is you can hold the third hit of BBB. Right, that. Now, pointless on block. Don't do that on block. On a hit, what happens is they can't step it. Right, it will hit you out of their step. It will hit them out of their step. Does 10% guard damage on block, and it's -2 on block. They can only GI it. It's a level 1 GI, so literally whatever. And it will hit people out of their soul charge while also still removing their meter. So it's pretty good. So if you ever hit this, you know, like let's say you hit a standard I-14 punish, you can sort of risk going for this. And mid-screen, you know, tiny combo if you want to spend the bar on it. Now where this becomes pretty good is at the wall, because before, I'll just show you, I guess. Before, you would end your combo at the wall with like a wall splat into BB, and you got a +2 standing reset. And that was alright, because it's a +2 standing reset, but they could still sidestep there and stuff, and so you lost the wall. They could also mash out, you know, unless you were using the clash setup and stuff. Now, with this new BB, it becomes a pretty good combo ender, because even on block or GI, you maintain the wall, and if they're trying to mash out or if they're ducking or anything like that, you actually get a reset wall splat. So that looks like this. Right, I dropped the just frame there, but you hopefully can see the insane kind of damage this leads to. So that, just to reiterate, the BB at the end is guaranteed. You hold the third hit, and if they try to step, mash, duck, or soul charge, that hits them. They can only do a GI or block. That's it. So also new to Season 2 is that in the past when you did a crouching block punish, you were forced to spend meter because you only had 6 BB at I-18. Now they changed the 6B plus K string to where you can hold a second part, and that's a meterless crouch punish. So right, that is what a Season 1 crouch punish would have looked like. Now you can also do this in Season 2. It is less damage, but you get to keep your meter for more important parts, more important stuff, which I think is useful. So yeah, this is the true end of the video. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope you have fun this season.